The shriek of tortured metal was the first sound, followed by the percussive explosion of tempered glass. Marcus Thorne felt a colossal, impersonal force slam into his side, vaporizing the sound of his driver's scream. The world became a kaleidoscope of rain-slicked asphalt and shattering light. His $5,000 suit was instantly soaked, not just with rain, but with the coppery warmth he recognized as his own blood. The Bentley, his mobile fortress, was a mangled wreck, T-boned by a delivery truck that had run the red. Sirens wailed, distant, then terrifyingly close. "Sir! Mr. Thorne, can you hear me?" Gavin, his head of security, was yanking at the jammed door. Marcus groaned, tasting blood and airbag residue. His vision swam. The pain in his ribs was a sharp, white fire. And then, through the jagged spiderweb of the broken window, he saw her. A little girl, no older than 7, with rain-plastered blonde hair and a face smudged with city grime. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was just there, standing impossibly close to the wreckage, her eyes wide and fixed on his wrist. "Mister." Her voice was a tiny, clear bell cutting through the cacophony. She was holding up a pair of the most ridiculous-looking sneakers he had ever seen, worn out, muddy, and bubblegum pink. "Your clock is broken." He blinked, the rain and blood stinging his eyes. He looked down. His Patek Philippe Grandmaster chime, the last gift from his father, was a ruin of shattered crystal and twisted gold, its intricate movement silenced forever. "You can have my shoes," the little girl insisted, pushing them closer. "They still light up." A tiny red LED on the heel blinked weakly. Just give me the broken clock." Marcus stared, the absurdity of the request a momentary anesthetic for the searing pain. "What?" he rasped, as Gavin finally wrenched the door open. "The clock," she repeated, pointing a small, dirty finger. "It's all broken. Mine are magic. Please." The sheer, unwavering sincerity in her gaze, the absolute seriousness of her offer, was the last thing he processed before the world dissolved into the white light of the paramedics' flashlights. The hospital was a sterile white box, smelling of antiseptic and quiet panic. Marcus Thorne refused the private suite, the coterie of specialists, and the morphine drip. He sat on the edge of a standard bed in a curtained-off cubicle, a nurse stitching the gash on his temple with practiced, impersonal movements. He had 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and a laceration that would scar. His driver, miraculously, had only a broken arm. The truck driver was in surgery. Gavin stood by the curtain, his face a mask of controlled fury. "The girl is gone, sir. Slipped away in the chaos. The ambulance crew said she just vanished. We have the shoes, though. They're in an evidence bag." Marcus winced as the needle pulled tight. "She wasn't evidence, Gavin. She was a hallucination. Sir, the shoes are very real. Muddy, size 11 kids." Marcus fell silent. The nurse finished, taped a white gauze pad to his head, and left, drawing the curtain with a soft shush. "Find her," Marcus said, his voice flat. "What?" "The girl. Find her. I want to know why she wanted a broken watch." "Sir, with respect, she's a street kid, a grifter. She saw a multi-million-dollar watch, even a broken one, and took a shot. She probably thought she could sell it for scrap. She offered me her shoes, Gavin, her magic shoes, which are worthless, sir. It's a classic misdirection, a confidence trick." "She was 7 years old. They start young," Gavin replied, unmoved. "My priority is your safety. The truck's brakes were cut. This wasn't an accident." A different kind of chill, one that had nothing to do with the rain or the shock, settled over Marcus. A rival? Or a new player? Thorne Dynamics has been aggressive. The Apex acquisition alone. "Find out who," Marcus interrupted, swinging his legs off the bed. The pain in his side made him grit his teeth. "And find the girl. I don't care how. Use the traffic cams. Facial recognition. I want to know who she is. I want to know. He trailed off. He wasn't sure what he wanted. He just knew that the image of her small, serious face and those ridiculous pink shoes was imprinted on his mind more clearly than the sight of the truck bearing down on them. He stood, ignoring Gavin's protest, and walked out of the cubicle. In the sterile corridor, he paused. He felt a phantom weight on his wrist where the watch had been. He had worn it every day for 15 years, since his father's funeral. Now it was gone, traded to a grimy-faced angel for a pair of muddy, blinking sneakers. The absurdity was so profound, it almost made him laugh. Almost. Lily, whose name was Liliana, ran. She didn't stop until her lungs burned, and the sirens were a dull throb in the distance. She clutched the mangled piece of metal to her chest, its sharp edges digging into her palm through her thin jacket. It was heavy, much heavier than she expected. She scrambled down the alleyway that led to the back entrance of her building, a pre-war tenement that smelled of damp plaster and boiled cabbage, a building that was, entirely unbeknownst to her, one of the smaller, less significant properties recently acquired by Thorne Dynamics. She took the stairs 2 at a time, her socked feet silent on the worn linoleum, past the peeling no-smoking signs and the flickering fluorescent light on the 3rd-floor landing. She lived on the 5th floor, walk-up. She eased her key into the lock, the one she wore on a piece of yarn around her neck, and slipped inside. "Lily, is that you, Moya Zirochka? My little star?" The voice from the bedroom was thin and papery, broken by a dry cough. "It's me, Grandma," Lily whispered, padding into the small, clean living room. She towed off her wet socks, leaving them by the door. The apartment was tiny but immaculate. A threadbare sofa, a small television with a coat-hanger antenna, and a kitchenette were all crammed into one room. The second room, barely larger than a closet, was where her grandmother, Elena, spent her days. Lily walked to the doorway. Elena was propped up on pillows, a colorful, hand-knitted afghan spread over her frail body. Her gray hair was thin, but her eyes were the same bright, clear blue as Lily's. An oxygen tank stood sentinel by the bed, its plastic tubes hissing softly. "You were out long," Elena said, her voice raspy. "It was raining. I was careful. And your shoes? You didn't get your new shoes wet, did you?" Lily froze. Her shoes. Her magic shoes. The last birthday present from her mom before she got sick. The ones that lit up with every step. She had given them away. A hot flush of guilt and panic rose in her throat. She had traded her mother's last gift. "Lily?" Elena's voice was sharper, tinged with worry. Lily couldn't lie. Not to her. She walked to the bed and slowly uncurled her fingers. She placed the broken watch on the afghan. Elena's eyes widened. The thing was a wreck. A tangle of gold and platinum, its face a mosaic of shattered crystal. Tiny, microscopic gears and springs were visible, like the entrails of a mechanical bird. "My goodness," Elena breathed. "What is this?" "It's a broken heart, Grandma," Lily said softly, her voice trembling. "I found it. A man. His car was broken, and his clock was all broken, too. He looked so sad." "Lily," Elena said, her voice weak but firm, "you didn't take this?" "No, no, I traded." "Traded?" Elena looked alarmed. "Traded what, Lily? What do you have to trade?" Lily's face crumpled. "My shoes," she whispered, the tears finally coming. "My magic shoes." Elena's expression softened from alarm to a deep, aching sadness. "Oh, Lily, your mother's shoes. He needed them, Grandma. His clock was so broken. It was the saddest broken thing I ever saw. You always say everything broken can be fixed, that everything has a story." Lily scrubbed at her tears with a dirty sleeve. I thought I thought if he had some magic, his clock wouldn't be so sad. And my shoes are magic." Elena reached out a thin, pale hand and cupped Lily's cheek. "Oh, moja dusha, my soul. You have a heart bigger than this whole city. You did a kind thing. A very, very kind thing." Elena's eyes went back to the watch. She picked it up, her fingers tracing the ruined face. "This," she said, her voice distant. "This was not just a clock, Lily. This was someone's everything." Lily looked at the mangled metal. "Can we fix it?" she asked. "I don't think so, little star. Not this kind of broken. It's too deep. But we can try," Lily insisted. "We can put it in the treasure box, with Mommy's locket and your first ballet slipper." Elena smiled, a faint, tired smile. "Yes, we will put it in the treasure box. It can keep your mother's locket company." Lily retrieved the small, carved wooden box from the dresser. She carefully placed the ruined watch inside, nesting it on a bed of faded velvet. She closed the lid, feeling a small, strange sense of peace. She had traded her magic for a broken heart. It felt in a way she couldn't explain, like a fair exchange. That night, she slept in her socks, her feet cold, but her heart a little warmer. She didn't know that the man whose sad clock was now in her treasure box was the same man whose name was on the ominous, official-looking envelope that had been slipped under their door that morning. An envelope that Elena had hidden under her mattress, her hands shaking. The envelope, printed on heavy, expensive cardstock, bore the stylized T of Thorn Dynamics and the words, "Final Notice of Eviction." Marcus Thorn sat in his penthouse office, a vast expanse of glass and steel overlooking a rain-swept Central Park. It was 3 a.m. He hadn't slept. On his desk, a slab of black marble that spanned 12 feet, sat two objects. One was a police evidence bag, sealed. Inside, caked in mud, were the pink light-up sneakers. The other was a preliminary report from Gavin's team. Target, Marcus Thorn. Method, vehicular assault, compromised brake line. Suspects, Apex Corp., disgruntled board, Leo Castanides, shipping rival, internal, TBD. He ignored the report. His gaze was fixed on the shoes. They were pathetic. Worn through at the toe, the Velcro straps frayed. One of them, the right one, still had a faint residual charge. Every few minutes, the heel would give a sad pink blink. Magic. The word echoed in his head. He reached out and, ignoring the biohazard-stamped plastic, touched the shoe. He thought of the girl's face, her complete, unadulterated sincerity. She hadn't been afraid of the crash, the blood, the sirens. She had been focused, on a mission. To trade her magic for his broken clock. Gavin's assessment was logical. A grift. A distraction. But it felt wrong. His gut, the instinct that had made him a billionaire by 40, told him this was different. He buzzed his intercom. "Gavin." His head of security's voice was instant, alert, despite the hour. "Sir, the traffic cam footage. Send it to my personal screen." "Sir, it's just raw data. Hours of it." "Now, Gavin." The massive screen on his wall flickered, then resolved into a dozen grainy, time-stamped feeds. The intersection of 57th and Park. He watched the crash again, this time in silent, agonizing slow motion. The black Bentley, the red truck. The impact, like a silent poem of destruction. He saw his own body flung against the reinforced glass. He saw Gavin, a blur of motion, leaping from the chase car. And then, he saw her. She didn't appear from the crowd. She appeared from behind a hot dog vendor's cart, as if she had been waiting. She didn't run to the crash. She walked. Deliberately. She slipped under the arm of a police officer, moved past a screaming bystander, and walked directly to his window. She held up the shoes. The trade. He watched her slip the watch into her pocket. He watched his security team and the paramedics converge on him, and he watched her turn and walk away. Not running, just walking. She disappeared into an alleyway. "Huh, Gavin," Marcus said, his voice hard. "The alleyway. 57th between Park and Lex. Get me every camera angle from that block. I want to know where she went." "Sir, it's 3 a.m. It will take time to pull the residential and commercial feeds. I pay you a salary that would choke a horse, Gavin. Make time. I want to see her front door." He cut the connection. He leaned back, the leather of his chair groaning. The pain in his ribs was a dull, constant ache, a reminder of his vulnerability. He had built an empire, a fortress of wealth and power, but a 7-year-old girl with dirty feet and magic shoes had breached his walls without even trying. He looked at the pink shoes blinking on his desk. He thought about his father. The watch had been his. A master watchmaker himself. His father had built his first, modest company on the principle of precision, of making things that lasted. "It's not about the money, Marcus," he used to say, his workshop smelling of oil and polished metal. "It's about creating something real, something that endures." After his death, Marcus had taken that small company and forged it into a ruthless conglomerate, a machine that devoured rather than built. He had kept the watch, a single, talismanic link to a man he barely remembered, but whose approval he still craved. And now it was gone. In its place, he had a pair of sneakers that lit up. He reached into the evidence bag, pulled out the right shoe, and set it on his desk. The mud flaked off onto the pristine marble. He pressed the heel. The red light blinked. Magic. He didn't know whether to laugh or weep. For the next 2 days, Lily's world was small and quiet. Her grandmother seemed weaker, her cough more persistent. The eviction notice remained hidden, a toxic secret Lily couldn't sense but Elena felt in every breath. Elena watched her granddaughter play, a knot of terror tightening in her chest. The notice gave them 10 days. 10 days to move, to find a new place, with no money, no connections, and her own failing health. The building's new owners, this Thorn Dynamics, were notorious. They didn't negotiate with tenants. They bulldozed. Lily, oblivious, was focused on a new project. She had taken the sad clock from the treasure box. She sat at the small kitchen table with a cup of water, a soft rag, and one of her grandmother's old soft toothbrushes. She was, with the intense, solemn focus of a surgeon, cleaning the watch. She carefully brushed the grime from the intricate, twisted bracelet. She wiped the dried blood from the shattered crystal. She polished the gold casing until it gleamed, despite the dents and scratches. "It's getting happier," she announced to Elena, holding it up. The light from the window caught the metal. "See? It's shining." Elena forced a smile. "It is, little star. You are polishing it beautifully. When it's all clean, will it start ticking again?" "I don't think so, sweetie. The inside, the heart of it, is broken." "But you said everything can be fixed," Lily insisted, her small brow furrowed. "Sometimes," Elena said, her voice catching, "fixing something doesn't mean making it new again. Sometimes it just means taking care of it, loving it, even when it's broken." Lily pondered this. "Like you love me, even when I forget to clean my room?" "Exactly like that," Elena whispered, a tear tracing a path through the wrinkles on her cheek. Lily went back to her polishing. She worked for an hour, until every link of the bracelet was clean, and the mangled case glowed with a dull, rich luster. The face was still a catastrophe, a spider's web of cracks, the hands frozen at the exact moment of the crash. 3:17 p.m. She held it to her ear. Silence. She sighed, then carried it back to the treasure box. "It's okay," she whispered to the box as if it were a confidant. "Grandma says we just have to love it, even if it's broken." She didn't see Elena reach under the mattress. her hand trembling as she pulled out the envelope. She didn't see her grandmother read the words again, as if trying to make them disappear. Failure to vacate by the 15th will result in forced removal by the city marshal. The 15th was 3 days away. Elena closed her eyes, the weight of the impossible crushing her. "We have her." Gavin's voice was crisp, professional. He stood in Marcus's office, this time in the bright, unforgiving light of morning. He placed a single file on the black marble desk next to the pink sneaker, which now sat on a small velvet cloth, as if it were a piece of art. Marcus hadn't moved it. Liliana Rostova, age 7, lives with her grandmother, Elena Rostova, age 68. 341 East 57th Street, apartment 5B. Marcus felt a jolt. "That's 3 blocks from the crash site." "Yes, sir. She was on her way back from the corner deli. It seems she's her grandmother's primary caregiver. Picks up groceries, medicine." "Caregiver?" "The grandmother is terminal. Pulmonary fibrosis. Needs a transplant, but she's not a candidate. Palliative care only. They're undocumented. Ukrainian refugees came over 8 years ago. The girl, Liliana, is a U.S. citizen. Born here. The parents are deceased. Mother, car accident. Father, unknown." The clinical, detached summary painted a picture of such bleakness that Marcus felt a strange, unfamiliar tightness in his chest. How do they live? Social Security. The grandmothers. It's not enough. They're poor, sir. Deeply. "And the building?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. A cold dread was spreading through him. Gavin stiffened. This was the part he had been dreading. "The building. 341. East 57th. It's one of ours, sir." Marcus went very still. "Ours. Acquired in the Apex portfolio. Slated for demolition. It's the last building on the block we need to clear for the new flagship tower." "Clear?" "They're the last tenants, sir. The holdouts. Everyone else took the buyout." "What's their status?" Gavin cleared his throat. "A final eviction notice was served 3 days ago. They are scheduled for removal. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. The silence in the office was absolute. The only sound was the faint hiss of the ventilation. Marcus looked from Gavin's impassive face to the single, muddy pink sneaker on his desk. He thought of the girl. Walking, not running, to his wrecked car. Her total, fearless focus. He needed them, Grandma. The words echoed in his mind, though he hadn't heard them. He knew with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that she hadn't been a grifter. She hadn't been a thief. She had been exactly what she appeared to be. A child who thought her light-up shoes were magic and that a man with a broken clock needed them more than she did. And in 3 days his company, his machine, was going to throw her and her dying grandmother onto the street. "Cancel it," Marcus said, his voice a low growl. Gavin blinked. "Sir?" "Cancel the eviction, now. Mr. Thorne, the demolition schedule is locked. The permits are filed. The penalties for a delay." "Our money, Gavin," Marcus roared, slamming his uninjured hand on the desk. The sneaker jumped. "It's just money. Do you understand me? Call legal. Call the marshal. Call God himself if you have to. That eviction does not happen. Are we clear?" Gavin, for the first time in his career, looked flustered. "Yes, sir. But the optics, if we make an exception." "There are no optics," Marcus snapped. "There is a dying woman and a 7-year-old girl who I am not, under any circumstances, making homeless. Fix it." "Yes, sir." Gavin turned and walked out, his back rigid. Marcus was left alone again, his heart hammering against his broken ribs. He stared at the sneaker. He felt sick. He was the man who had ordered that eviction. He was the faceless, ruthless entity that was about to destroy her life. He, who had her magic shoe sitting on his desk like a trophy. The hypocrisy was so vile, it choked him. He picked up the sneaker. It felt small and incredibly fragile in his hand. He pressed the heel. The light was dead. The battery finally had given out. Lily knew something was wrong. Her grandmother hadn't eaten all day. She just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her breathing shallow and ragged. The oxygen concentrator hissed, a lonely, mechanical sound in the quiet apartment. "Grandma?" Lily whispered, touching her arm. "Do you want some soup?" Elena turned her head slowly, her eyes unfocused. "We have to pack, Zirochka." "Pack? Are we going on a trip?" Lily felt a small thrill. They never went anywhere. "Yes, sweetie, a trip. We have to. We have to go." Elena tried to sit up, but a racking cough seized her, a dry, terrible sound that left her gasping, her face pale and sweaty. "Grandma," Lily cried, terrified. "Breathe, breathe." I'm all right," Elena panted, sinking back. "I'm just so tired." She looked at Lily, her eyes suddenly sharp with a desperate, terrifying clarity. "Lily, listen to me. Under my mattress there is an envelope." Lily, her heart pounding, ran to the bed and lifted the thin mattress. The heavy, cream-colored envelope was there. She pulled it out. "Give it to me." Elena unfolded the paper. Lily couldn't read all the words, but she saw the big, scary ones. "Eviction. Thorn Dynamics." "What does it mean, Grandma?" "It means we have to leave, little star. This isn't our home anymore." "But where will we go?" I don't know," Elena whispered, and for the first time since Lily's mother died, she began to cry. Not loud sobs, but silent, hopeless tears that streamed down her face. Seeing her grandmother, her rock, her entire world, break apart, shattered something in Lily. She felt a cold, hard knot of fear in her stomach. But then she felt something else, a hot, fierce anger. "Thorn Dynamics," she said, testing the words. She had seen that name on the news, the reports about the big crash, the man in the car, the man with the broken clock. Mr. Thorn, he was the one making her grandmother cry. He was the one taking their home. She looked at the treasure box on the dresser. His broken heart was inside. He had her magic shoes, and he was still this mean. The trade hadn't worked. He was still broken. Maybe he needed his clock back. Maybe if she gave it back, he would remember the trade. He would remember her. "Lily, what are you thinking?" Elena asked, wiping her eyes. "I have to go see him," Lily said, her small jaw set. "See who, sweetie? There's no one to see." "The man. Mr. Thorn. I have his clock. I'm going to give it back. I'm going to tell him to stop making you cry." "No, Lily," Elena cried, struggling to sit up. "You can't. He's a powerful man. He's not someone you can just talk to. It's dangerous." "I'm not scared," Lily said. She went to the treasure box and took out the mangled watch. It felt heavy in her hand, heavy with a purpose she didn't understand. "I have to try. You always say, we have to try." Before Elena could protest again, Lily ran to the door, shoved her feet into her old, non-magic, too small boots, snatched her jacket, and was gone. "Lily, come back." Elena's cry was lost in the sound of the apartment door slamming shut. Lily ran down the 5 flights of stairs, her small legs pumping. She burst out onto the street, the cold morning air hitting her face. She didn't know where she was going exactly, but she knew the name. Thorn Dynamics. The biggest, shiniest building in the city. Everyone knew it. It was a spear of glass and black steel that pierced the clouds. She just had to walk towards it. She clutched the broken watch in her pocket, its metal cold against her skin. She wasn't a little girl anymore. She was on a mission. She was going to get her grandmother's home back. The lobby of Thorn Tower was designed to intimidate. It was a 3-story atrium of black marble, brushed steel, and cold, ambient light. The ceilings were so high they seemed to belong to the sky. A massive, silent waterfall cascaded down one wall, Men and women in sharp, dark suits moved with silent, urgent purpose, their faces locked in expressions of grim importance. At the center of this cavernous space, a single security desk, carved from a solid block of granite, presided over the entrance like a high altar. Behind it sat two guards who looked more like special forces operatives than receptionists. Lily, small, damp from the morning mist, and wearing mismatched socks with her old boots, stood in the revolving doorway, mesmerized and terrified. The sheer scale of the place was overwhelming. It was the castle of the man who was hurting her grandmother. She took a deep breath, clutched the watch in her pocket, and walked in. She was invisible for approximately 10 seconds, a small out-of-place smudge in a world of polished perfection. Then one of the guards saw her. "Hey, kid, you can't be in here." He was already moving, a big man, unsmiling. Lily dodged behind a massive potted plant that looked like a tree. "I need to see Mr. Thorne," she yelled, her voice surprisingly loud in the echoing space. The guard sighed, annoyed. "Yeah, okay, come on, let's get you back to your mom." He lunged, and Lily bolted. She was small and fast. She skidded on the marble floor and scrambled under the security turnstiles, rolling like a commando. "Hey, stop her!" The second guard joined the chase. People stopped, their important conversations pausing as they stared at the bizarre spectacle of a tiny, ragged girl being chased by two large security men in a billion-dollar lobby. "I have to see him," Lily shouted, running towards the bank of elevators. "It's important. I have his clock." She reached the elevators just as a set of polished steel doors slid open. A man was inside, looking down at his phone. Without thinking, Lily dove in between his legs, scrambled to the back of the elevator, and cowered. "What the hell?" the man said, startled. The guards arrived, panting. "Sir, sorry, sir. Kid got loose." "Grab her," the man on the phone said, not looking up. One of the guards reached for Lily. "No!" she shrieked, holding up the broken watch. "Stop, it's his. It's Mr. Thorne's. I have to give it back." The man in the elevator, who had been impatiently waiting for the doors to close, froze. He slowly looked up from his phone. His eyes, a cold, piercing gray, landed on the mangled piece of gold and platinum in her hand. He looked at her face, smudged with dirt, her eyes wide with terror and defiance. He looked at her mismatched socks and her worn-out boots. Marcus Thorne slowly lowered his phone. "It's all right, gentlemen," he said, his voice quiet. The guard stopped, confused. "Let her go." "Sir, I said let her go. I'll handle this." He pressed the door close button. The steel doors slid shut, sealing him inside the small enclosed space with the terrified child. The elevator began its silent, impossibly fast ascent. Lily pressed herself into the corner, her breathing ragged. She held the watch out, as if it were a shield. Marcus said nothing. He just watched her. He looked down at his own feet, at his $2,000. Hand-stitched Italian leather shoes. Then he looked at her boots, which had a small hole in the toe of one. The elevator chimed softly, and the doors opened. They weren't in the lobby. They were in his office. The penthouse. Lily's jaw dropped. The room was bigger than her entire apartment, and the walls were made of glass. The whole city was spread out below them like a map. "Wow," she breathed, her fear momentarily forgotten. "Come here," Marcus said. His voice wasn't kind, but it wasn't angry. It was just tired. Lily hesitated, then slowly walked towards the massive black desk. She stopped, still keeping a safe distance. He was the man from the car. He had a white bandage on his head now, and a faint dark bruise under his eye. He looked older and sadder. "You're Lily," he said. It wasn't a question. She nodded, surprised. "How did you know?" "I have your shoes." He gestured. On the corner of his desk, on a black velvet cloth, sat her single pink sneaker. The light was dead. Lily stared at it. It looked as small and out of place as she felt. "Why did you run away?" he asked. I had to get home. To my grandma." "Why did you come back?" Lily's fear was replaced by the hot anger she'd felt in her apartment. She stepped forward, her small fists clenched. "You're making my grandma cry," she accused, her voice rising. "You're taking our home," the paper said. "Thorn Dynamics." Marcus flinched as if she had struck him. "And you said," she continued, her voice trembling with righteous fury, "you said nothing. You just took my magic shoes, and you're still mean. The trade didn't work." She was crying now, hot, angry tears. "You're still broken, and you broke my grandma too." She threw the watch onto the desk. It skidded across the black marble and came to rest against the base of his monitor. "I don't want it. It's a sad, broken heart, and I hate it. I want my grandma to stop crying." She stood there, chest heaving, tears streaming down her face, a tiny, furious prophet in his sterile, silent sky palace. Marcus Thorne was, for the first time in his adult life, speechless. He had been threatened by titans of industry, by foreign governments, by men with guns. He had never been so thoroughly, completely undone. He stared at the ruined watch on his desk, then at the single, dead sneaker, then at the crying child who had just accused him of being a broken-hearted monster. He realized with a soul-crushing certainty that she was absolutely right. He knelt. The movement sent a sharp pain through his broken ribs, but he ignored it. He was, for the first time, looking up at her. I didn't know," he said, and the words felt like gravel in his mouth. "The eviction. I didn't know it was you." "But it's your name," she sobbed. "You're Mr. Thorne." "Yes," he said, "I am." He looked at the watch, his father's watch. He picked it up. The metal was clean. He turned it over. The grime was gone. The intricate metalwork of the bracelet was polished, gleaming in the light. He could see the faint, circular marks from a small, soft brush. He looked at her small, dirty hands, her fingernails chipped and black with grime. He looked back at the watch she had so carefully, so lovingly polished. You cleaned it," he whispered, his throat tightening. "It was still sad," she mumbled, wiping her nose on her sleeve. "I tried to make it happier." He closed his eyes. The fortress he had built around his heart didn't just crack. It vaporized. It ceased to exist. He opened his eyes and looked at the small, fierce, terrified, and profoundly kind child in front of him. "The eviction is stopped," he said, his voice thick. It's over. It was a mistake." Lily sniffed, her sobs slowing. "A mistake. A terrible mistake. Your grandmother. She doesn't have to cry. You don't have to leave, I promise." Lily stared at him, her blue eyes searching his. She was looking for the lie. "You promise?" "I promise." He stood up slowly. "Gavin," he barked at his intercom. "Yes, sir." "Get Dr. Aris, the head of pulmonology at Lenox Hill. Tell him I need a personal consultation. Now. Have him meet me at 341 East 57th Apartment 5B, and get a notary. I want the deed to that apartment transferred to Elena Rostova. Today." "Sir." "The deed." Gavin's voice was strained. "Did I stutter, Gavin? And get the building manager. I want the heat fixed, the elevator running, and a basket of, I don't know, fruit, sent to every remaining tenant. Apologize for the inconvenience. And get me my car. I'm going out." He cut the connection. He looked at Lily, who was watching him with a look of stunned confusion. "We're going to go see your grandmother," he said. He picked up the broken watch and slipped it into his suit pocket. It felt right. Back where it belonged, even broken. He then picked up the single pink sneaker. He held it out to her. "I think You need this back. Lily looked at the shoe, then at him. She shook her head. It's not magic anymore, she said quietly. The light's dead. No, Marcus said, his voice raw. It's the most magic thing I've ever seen. He gently took her small, dirty hand. Let's go home. The walk back to the apartment was a strange, silent procession. Marcus Thorne, the billionaire titan, walking down 57th Street holding the hand of a 7-year-old girl in mismatched socks, while Gavin followed 10 paces behind, looking like he was expecting an assassin to leap from every doorway. When they reached the tenement building, the change in Marcus was palpable. He looked at the crumbling facade, the graffiti, the broken front lock. He looked at it not as a line item on a balance sheet, but as a place where people lived. As a place where she lived. He held the door for her, and they walked into the dim, cabbage-scented lobby. The elevator's broken, Lily said matter-of-factly. We have to walk. Marcus nodded. Okay. They started up the stairs. By the 2nd floor, his ribs were screaming. By the 3rd, he was breathing heavily, sweat beading on his bruised temple. Lily, used to the climb, looked back at him with concern. Are you broken again? He managed a pained smile. Just a little. Keep going. They reached the 5th floor. Lily led him to 5B and used her key. Grandma, she yelled, pushing the door open. I'm back, and I brought him. Case. Elena was sitting up in bed, her face ashen with panic. When she saw Marcus Thorne, a man whose face she had seen on the news and on the eviction notice fill her doorway, she let out a small, terrified gasp and clutched the Afghan to her chest. Lily, get away from him, she cried. It's okay, Grandma. Lily ran to her. He's not mean anymore. He's the man from the crash. He said it was a mistake. He said we can stay. Elena stared at Marcus, her eyes wide with disbelief and fear. Mr. Thorne? Marcus stepped into the tiny apartment. It was smaller than his master bathroom, but it was clean. It was warm. It smelled of soup and love. He saw the oxygen tank, the worn-out blankets, the small, proud display of framed photos on the wall. He saw the eviction notice, now crumpled on the floor. Mrs. Rostova, he said, and he was shocked at the hoarseness of his own voice. My name is Marcus Thorne. I am here to apologize. What my company did, what I did, was unconscionable. It was a clerical error. A terrible one. Elena just stared, her mind unable to process the cognitive dissonance. The monster from the paper was standing in her room, apologizing. You are letting us stay, she whispered. You will never have to worry about this apartment again, Marcus said. It's yours. Just then, there was a knock on the open door. A man in a sharp suit, carrying a briefcase, stepped in, followed by a world-renowned doctor carrying a medical bag. Mr. Thorne, Dr. Eris, I came as fast as I could. Doctor, thank you. This is Mrs. Elena Rostova. I need you to help her. Dr. Aris looked from the billionaire to the frail woman in the bed, his expression one of professional confusion, but he nodded. Of course. Ma'am, may I? As the doctor began to gently speak to Elena, taking her pulse, Marcus stepped back. The notary was already speaking to Gavin in the hallway. Lily came and stood next to Marcus, slipping her hand back into his. Is he going to fix her? Lily whispered. Marcus looked at the doctor, then at Elena's frail form. He knew what the report had said. Terminal. He's going to make her feel better, he said, choosing his words carefully. He's the best doctor there is. He stayed for an hour. He watched as Dr. Eris arranged for a private ambulance to move Elena to the hospital. We can make her comfortable, Dr. Eris told him quietly in the hall. But the transplant list. She's not a candidate. Her age, her undocumented status. Change her status, Marcus said. I don't care what it costs. Call immigration. Call the State Department. She is now my personal guest, and get her on that list. I will fund the entire transplant wing if I have to. Just save her. Dr. Aris stared. Mr. Thorne, that's not how it works. It is now, Marcus said, his voice leaving no room for argument. When they carried Elena out on a stretcher, she was no longer terrified. She was just numb. But as they passed Marcus, she reached out a weak hand. He took it. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Marcus looked at Lily, who was clutching her grandmother's other hand, walking alongside the stretcher. Because, Marcus said, his voice thick, she traded me her magic shoes, and I'm long overdue on my end of the bargain. The next few months were a blur. Marcus Thorne, a man who moved markets and toppled corporations, focused his entire, formidable will on two things: saving Elena and repairing a broken watch. He moved Lily into a suite at a hotel near the hospital, but she hated it. It was too quiet, too clean. So he had her old apartment, her apartment now, completely renovated. The work was done in a week. New heating, new floors, new furniture, and a bedroom for Lily painted in her favorite color, yellow, with a brand new 4-poster bed. But she spent most of her time at the hospital, in the luxurious private wing Marcus had, in fact, endowed. She would sit by Elena's bed, holding her hand and reading her books from the hospital library. Marcus came every day. At first it was awkward. He would stand in the doorway in his suit, a man entirely out of his element. He didn't know how to talk to a child, or a sick old woman. So he just listened. He listened to Lily's stories about school. He listened to Elena's whispered memories of Ukraine, of a small garden she used to have. He brought Lily new sneakers, red ones, with white stripes. She thanked him, but he noticed she kept the other pink sneaker, the one he'd returned, on her bedside table. He brought Elena a small potted geranium because she'd mentioned her garden. Her smile, faint and watery, was like the sun coming out. The battle for Elena's life was monumental. Marcus's lawyers moved heaven and earth. Her status was resolved in a flurry of high-priced legal work and a few strategic donations. She was on the transplant list. A match was found. The surgery was long, perilous, and, against all odds, a staggering success. While Elena recovered, Marcus pursued his other project. He flew the broken watch to Switzerland, to the small village where Patek Philippe had been born. He didn't go to the corporation. He went to a single, small shop, run by an old man named Antoine, who was rumored to be the last living watchmaker who had apprenticed under Marcus's own grandfather. Antoine, a man in his 90s with hands gnarled by arthritis but eyes as sharp as a jeweler's loupe, looked at the ruined watch. "It is dead," he said simply. "I know," Marcus said. "The company will replace it. For a price." "I don't want it replaced. I want it repaired." "Repaired?" Antoine scoffed. "Monsieur, it is shattered. The mainspring is snapped. The chime mechanism is pulverized. The crystal is dust. But the pieces are all there," Marcus said. He had brought the microscopic gears and springs that had fallen out, collected painstakingly by Gavin from the floor of the Bentley. "I want you to put it back together." Antoine looked at him. "This will cost you more than a new one. It will take months, and it will never be perfect." "I don't want it to be perfect," Marcus said. "Then what do you want?" "I want it to tick again." Antoine studied the billionaire's face. He saw the scar on his temple, the exhaustion in his eyes. He saw the desperation. "Why?" he asked, his voice softer. "Because," Marcus said, "a little girl polished it. She said she was trying to make it happier. I need it to be. The old watchmaker was silent for a long time. He picked up the watch. Kintsugi, he murmured. What? In Japan, Antoine said, they repair broken pottery with gold. They believe that when something has been broken and repaired, it is more beautiful, more valuable than it was before. The cracks are part of its story. He looked at Marcus. I will do it, but it will be a kintsugi watch. You will see the cracks. They will be filled with gold. Yes, Marcus said. That's exactly what I want. 6 months after the crash, it was a warm, bright spring day. Elena Rostova, her hair grown back thicker, her cheeks filled with color, sat on a bench in Central Park. She was knitting. Beside her sat Lily, laughing as she tried to braid the stems of 3 daisies. A few feet away, pushing an empty swing, was Marcus Thorne. He was not wearing a suit. He was wearing jeans, a simple black polo shirt, and a pair of sneakers. He looked relaxed, younger. The faint white scar on his temple was the only reminder of the crash. A black town car purred to a stop on the curb. Gavin got out, holding a small, velvet-covered box. He walked over to Marcus. It's here, sir. Marcus's heart, which he had only recently become reacquainted with, gave a lurch. He took the box. Thank you, Gavin. Gavin nodded and retreated to the car. What is it? Lily asked, running over. A present, Marcus said. He sat on the swing next to her and opened the box. Lily and Elena both gasped. It was the watch, but it was different. It was the same mangled case, the same bracelet. But the face, the shattered crystal, had been replaced by a new, clear one, and underneath the dial, which had been cracked, was now a beautiful mosaic. Veins of pure, shining gold ran through it, holding the broken pieces together. And the hands, which had been frozen at 3:17, were moving. A soft, steady tick-tick-tick came from the box. It's beating, Lily whispered, her eyes wide. The heart. It's fixed. Yes, Marcus said, his voice thick. It's fixed. He unclasped the watch and, with hands that were surprisingly steady, fastened it to his wrist. The metal was warm. It felt alive. It was no longer a monument to his father's memory. It was a testament to his own survival, his own rebirth. It's beautiful, Elena said, her eyes shining with tears. It's the most beautiful clock in the world. Marcus looked at the golden cracks on the watch face. He thought of the broken ribs, the broken company, the broken heart. He thought of the little girl who had seen through all of it, right to the broken core of him. So, Lily said, tugging on his arm, her mind already on to the next thing. Now that your clock is all better. What time is it? Marcus Thorne, a man who had once measured his life in stock tickers and quarterly reports, looked down at his priceless, shattered, and perfect watch. He smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. It's time, he said, standing up and grabbing her hand, to go get some ice cream. He reached out his other hand to Elena. Coming, Grandma. Yes, she said, gathering her knitting, her own smile bright enough to power the city. I am. Marcus walked between them, holding both their hands, a man no longer broken but beautifully repaired. The trade was, at long last, complete.